Most people believe that becoming a millionaire requires a rare opportunity, a lucky investment, a business that takes off, a stroke of timing that most lives simply never receive. So they wait quietly for their moment, convinced that without it, real wealth will always belong to someone else. And while they wait, the years move forward, and the moment never quite seems to arrive. In Japan, there is a story about a factory worker who became a millionaire without any of that. No lucky break. No dramatic opportunity. Today, I want to tell you about the one small daily rule that made it possible. A quiet application of Kaizen so simple it almost sounds unremarkable, yet powerful enough to turn an ordinary working life into something extraordinary. This is not about talent. It is about 1%, repeated without stopping. Let me tell you about a man named Tetsuya. Tetsuya worked on an assembly line at an auto parts factory outside Toyota City for nearly 40 years. His salary was steady but never impressive, and for most of his early career, he lived the way many workers do, paycheck to paycheck, assuming that a factory wage and real wealth simply did not belong in the same sentence. He wasn't unhappy. He simply believed his ceiling had already been set. In his early 30s, an older mentor on the line named Ogawa noticed something in Tetsuya, not ambition exactly, but a quiet willingness to listen. One afternoon, Ogawa said something Tetsuya never forgot. "You think your salary decides your future. It does not. Your daily rule decides your future. Choose one and never break it, no matter how small it feels." Ogawa's own rule, he explained, was simple. Every single day, without exception, he set aside exactly 1% of whatever came into his hands, and let it sit, untouched, growing quietly in the background of an otherwise ordinary life. Tetsuya adopted the same rule that year, and never once broke it, even during the hardest financial seasons of his life. This is the essence of Kaizen applied across an entire working life. Not a single large decision, but one small, unbreakable rule, followed daily, until decades later, it produces something almost impossible to explain by ordinary means. Think of a single bamboo seed planted in the ground. For the first several years, almost nothing seems to happen. No visible growth. No sign of progress. Many people would give up, assuming the seed had failed. But underground, the bamboo is building an enormous root system, quietly, invisibly, preparing for what comes next. Then, almost without warning, it shoots upward with astonishing speed, growing what looks like years of progress in a matter of weeks. Tetsuya's rule worked the same way. For a long time, nothing seemed to be happening. But beneath the surface, something was being built that would eventually become undeniable. Why does one small daily rule create this kind of result, when so many people with far more resources never get there? Because most people rely on motivation, and motivation, by nature, is inconsistent. A rule does not ask how you feel today. It simply asks whether you followed it, yes or no. And here is what most people miss. The power was never in the size of Tetsuya's 1%. It was in the fact that it never stopped, through raises, through hardship, through decades of ordinary, unremarkable days. The common mistake is believing that wealth requires a big financial decision made once. In truth, it usually requires a small financial decision, made thousands of times, without exception. So how can anyone apply this same principle in their own life? Let's break it into 3 areas. First, choose a rule so small it feels almost impossible to break. Not 10%. Not an ambitious number that collapses the first difficult month. Something so small, even 1%, that skipping it would feel more uncomfortable than following it. Second, remove the decision from daily willpower. Tetsuya automated his rule the moment his company allowed it, so it no longer depended on how motivated he felt on any given day. A rule that depends on daily enthusiasm eventually breaks. a rule that runs quietly in the background almost never does. Third, measure your progress in years, not months. The bamboo root system cannot be seen in its early growth, and neither can the results of 1% faithfully applied. Trust the process during the invisible years, because they are not wasted, they are simply preparing for what comes later. None of these steps require a special job, a rare skill, or a lucky opportunity. And that is exactly why most people, even hearing this simple rule, will still wait for something bigger before they begin. Tetsuya retired from the factory at 65, and quietly, without ever changing careers or taking a single major financial risk, he had become a millionaire, not through his salary, which remained ordinary his entire life, but through a rule he never once broke. When younger workers asked how it happened, he never mentioned luck. He simply said, "I did one small thing every day, and I never stopped." This is the choice in front of you. You can keep waiting for a rare opportunity to change your financial future, watching the years pass while nothing moves. Or you can choose one small rule today and follow it completely, without exception, without stopping. The root does not need to be seen. It only needs to be growing. If this way of thinking speaks to you, consider subscribing to Will and Wisdom, because we explore ideas like this every week, quiet philosophies that build a life worth having. Leave a comment and tell me the one small rule you will commit to today. And if you're ready to see how small habits shape extraordinary lives, the next video is waiting for you.